My favorite reason to come to Zero Trust World is it's a great mix of content between higher level presentations, kind of geared more towards an executive audience, but also the in the weeds and in depth hacking sessions. So there's content that's geared towards anybody, regardless of either their experience level or their seniority within an organization.
I think the thing that separates this conference from others is this is one of the very few ones where you can actually view from the other side of the lens. You actually get to take place in the hacking telemetry and see how ThreatLocker stops those types of hacks.
Coming to Zero Trust World, I think, is crucial in the industry because it allows you to bring the vendors, the partners, the customers, and be able to view the problem and the solutions from all those lenses together.
Doesn't feel sales driven like a lot of the other conferences that I tend to go to.
We have access to all the teams at ThreatLocker, the engineering team, the sales team, the C-level team, marketing, and education as well. Being able to have ad hoc conversations between all these different teams in order to get a question answered or to share an idea and then hear their feedback about it is extremely important.
I come to Zero Trust World because you don't just get the why or the educational side, which you definitely do, but you also get the how-to.
You're going to get perspectives from every single position that you're in. If you're a VP, you're going to have value. If you're a low-end tech, you're going to have value. If you're a hacker, you're going to have value. If you're in defense, you're going to have value. If you're just curious, you're going to have value.
Zero Trust World is such a great conference to attend. In cybersecurity and tech, cybersecurity, things move so fast. And it's really important if we're going to go and deliver the best service we can to our local community, we need to stay up to date with what's going on. And one of the really unique things about Zero Trust World is you get the thought leadership, find out what's going on in technology, new products, but also the hands-on learning is really unique in this space.
I came to Zero Trust World to learn more about the cybersecurity threats, get a deeper insight into the concepts of Zero Trust and the way things are moving, and find out more in depth about ThreatLocker, its products, and getting hands-on with them as well.
Of all the tech conferences I've been to, I have to say that Zero Trust World is hands down the best. It's been the most hands-on, it's been the most informative, and everyone here has just been absolutely fantastic. Got to meet with my peers, got to meet with people that I never thought I would be able to converse with, and it's just been an amazing experience so far.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you're connecting from. Today, we're going to talk about ThreatLocker, but we're going to talk about this from a different point of view. It's very easy for me to stand here and say how great ThreatLocker is, how easy application whitelisting is, how easy it is to deploy ring fencing, and there's a real ROI on there. But what we decided to do was actually bring someone else in to do independent research on this. So rather than me standing here saying, I'm great, we've invited Forrester, who have done an independent study, a total economic impact study with ThreatLocker, talking directly to our customers and getting information on how they've deployed, what the ROI was, how difficult it was, and all of that information. So I'd like to invite Nahida here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Danny. Hi, everyone. My name is Nisa, and I'm a consultant in Forrester's Total Economic Impact practice, where we produce detailed case studies for various solutions across a number of applications. So I'm excited to talk about ThreatLocker here today.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to very quickly start off with what is ThreatLocker, what we do, a little bit about the company. Okay, so ThreatLocker essentially is an endpoint protection platform. Our mission as a company is to accelerate the delivery of least privilege, deny by default technologies. And we do this by blocking with our application allow listing, our ring fencing, and the ultimate goal is to harden your servers and your endpoints. So our platform really is beginning to end from allow listing right up to a full EDR and MDR service. So I'll talk a little bit about what we had before Zero Trust World and what we announced at Zero Trust World. So the most important thing to me in our platform is our allow listing solution. It's the reason ThreatLocker exists. When ThreatLocker came into the market, we said allow listing is a fantastic technology. It's the best way to stop cyber attacks. It's the only effective way to stop malware. But it was too difficult to manage. So when we came out and said we want to introduce allow listing, we said we're not just going to allow large companies with restrictive environments to deploy it. We want this to be across every business. Today, we have over 54,000 companies that use our allow listing, and that ranges from small organizations right up to multinational companies. And we do this by learning what software you need. We automatically track the updates so you don't have to worry about them, and we block everything that isn't needed, and that includes ransomware. We then enhance this by ensuring that the applications that are permitted can only do what they need to by ring fencing those applications. What we can say is, hey, I trust Microsoft Office, I trust PowerShell, but I don't necessarily trust Office to talk to PowerShell or PowerShell to see all my files. Every application you do allow on your machine can see all of your files, all of your data. Most people don't realize how many apps are in their background, their webcam support apps, their coupon clippers, browser extensions. All of these programs can see all of your files. So with ring fencing, we can control exactly what an application can do. And then we can even choose to elevate those applications with our elevation control. So if you do have programs that need to run as a local admin, or you have a user trying to install a new program, you can very simply say, this program can be elevated temporarily or permanently without allowing the user to be a local admin. We can audit files and control access to storage. Now, people often think about storage as blocking USB, and of course, ThreatLocker does that. But in addition to this, we also control every other storage on your device on your system. So whether it's a network share, whether it's a Bluetooth storage, whether it's just files on your local drive, we want to be able to give you full visibility of every file that's been opened, moved, deleted, copied in your environment. Full stop. And then we can control your network traffic with our network control module. Now, network control is an endpoint protection firewall, but it has some really cool technologies in it. It will log all of your inbound and outbound network traffic in one central location. This is really great for forensics and auditing. But in addition to this, it also allows you to do dynamic ACL. So rather than you having ports open on your entire network, RDP can be seen inside my network. You can say only this device can see RDP, and it will automatically open and close the port based on the device's IP address at that point in time. Last year, or the year before, we released our EDR service, and last year we released our MDR. Our EDR service gives companies all of this telemetry data from all of our platforms, as well as Windows event log data and other data from the operating systems, Office 365 Cloud, whether it's Mac or Windows, and feeds it into ThreatLocker Detect. We're able to detect indicators of compromise. We can send that to our MDR and respond 24 hours a day. Now, this is what we've been doing for the last 5 years, and added over the last 5 years. At Zero Trust World this year, we added 4 major components to ThreatLocker. The first one is our web filtering, so you can now control what categories a website your users can go to. We'll automatically block malicious IP addresses for websites, and we can categorize, report, and you can do that really granular, whether it's on endpoint or off endpoint. What's really nice about it is the simple approval process. The biggest frustration you hear with users is miscategorization of websites. With ThreatLocker, we cross-reference that with our insights data, which I'm going to get onto in a moment. But then in addition to this, we can also give users a 60-second approval process. If they want a new website, they hit request, it's reviewed, and it's approved. And you can approve it at a single user, single computer basis. ThreatLocker added a patch management system. Now, the cool thing about this patch management system is it integrates seamlessly with our allow listing and our other products. So we're not just looking at registry keys. If somebody's downloaded a portable app and it's in their downloads folder, we will automatically alert if it's out of date. So you're going to see all of your out-of-date software in one place. And then very quickly, you can patch that software, and it will patch the portable apps as well as the installed apps. ThreatLocker Insights runs across all of our products. You can see it in the portal right now. If you're on the base portal, maybe the live portal. As well, if you go to approve something, you'll see an insights button. In the unified audit, you'll see an insights button. This will show you a full history of this file. When was it first seen in the wild? What dependencies it has? It will allow you to create ring fencing policies on the fly without having to necessarily know what an application does, because we can see it across the other millions and millions of endpoints we have, and this is really useful. Our user store is an enhancement to our allow listing. One of the biggest frustrations with allow listing is we want to enable the users to do their job. So if somebody wants a PDF viewer, the old way without allow listing, they download the PDF viewer, they could run it as long as they're a local admin, or even if they weren't, they could run a portable PDF viewer. Companies were getting frustrated with this because you had 15 different PDF viewers, vulnerabilities, unpatched software. So they use allow listing to ensure that they can only use the trusted PDF viewer. With ThreatLocker Store, the users can self-serve the applications they need. So when something gets blocked, if they download Qt PDF, they'll say, okay, Qt PDF is blocked, but here's alternatives that you're allowed to run in your company. It will give them the installer. It will elevate the application it needs to install, and it's really, really granular. And probably the most excited thing I'm about from Zero Trust World is our cloud control. And this is still very much in beta. It has a few different features. One is it gives you the option to harden your Office 365 environment beyond just typical cloud detection rules. What you can do is you can automatically set it to track the IP addresses of your devices. So you have your phone in your pocket. We have an access app on your phone. You have your laptop. It will automatically track those IP addresses, and then you can configure Office 365 to either not allow access to your tenant outside of your country, but have exclusions for your devices. So if you are traveling around the world like I'm often doing, we can say that ThreatLocker's tenant can only be accessed in the United States, but then as I travel around the world, it will track that I've left the country, and it will automatically add the IP addresses of the networks I connect to. When I disconnect from the network, it eventually expires out, and that IP address can no longer access your tenant. This is really, really cool to stop phishing and token theft, because if someone steals your token, it will be unusable unless it's coming from one of your trusted IP addresses. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about our global network. So often we're a Florida-based company. Despite my strong Michigan accent, I've actually been here for 14 years now. We have data centers all over the world, multiple data centers in the US, in Canada, in the European Union, Ireland, in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, and Australia. So no matter where you are, you can gain access to ThreatLocker's data centers and servers really, really fast. Our main mission is to block unauthorized software, and that includes ransomware. Remember that malware is just software, and if you block software by default, it really puts you in a stronger position. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Nahida, and please take it away.
Great. So on our agenda today, a very exciting agenda, we'll cover the findings of the total economic impact case study that Danny referenced earlier in the call, that Forrester conducted for ThreatLocker in order to tell the story of the customer journey based on aggregated data from the interviewees of the study. And I'll go into who the interviewees are, the journey that they experienced before and after ThreatLocker, and we'll discuss the financial summary. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our methodology on the next slide. So to give some background on TEI case studies, Forrester's total economic impact consulting practice develops business value justification analyses to help organizations understand the financial impact of a technology investment. So we incorporate total cost of ownership, identify risk and flexibility opportunities, and calculate ROI. And we build our analysis based on data collected from real customers who have practical experience using the solutions. So independently researched. The client, in this case, ThreatLocker, is not allowed in the interviews. So we really want to make sure we get real data and real experience. And we can talk about the approach that we took specifically for this project, the TI of ThreatLocker. The study and its underlying financial model are based on primary research that Forrester did exclusively for ThreatLocker. We first conducted our due diligence, which is scouring all possible material available about ThreatLocker, speaking to our Forrester analysts about the market and the solution. We then conducted in-depth interviews with 5 interviewees across 4 organizations, and I'll talk about those interviewees who've all had experience with ThreatLocker. From those interviews, we created a financial model based on the data collected. And then we used that data and the model to write a case study, which you can download on ThreatLocker's website. Now we're here presenting the results. So you'll see on the next screen just a quick disclosure here stating that the composite is created specifically based on aggregated interview data, and that Forrester advises you to use the framework of the study to tailor your own estimate. Our benefit tables are meant to be detailed enough to be informative, but simple enough that you could apply the characteristics of your own organization and render your ROI. So I'll just give some background for the market overview, just a backdrop against which the study is conducted. This backdrop is one in which the demand for cybersecurity solutions is on the rise, fueled by the need for stronger security measures to combat the growing number of threats and attacks. IT leaders are looking for comprehensive zero trust endpoint security solutions that not only safeguard their organization's networks, but also offer visibility and control over their applications and infrastructure. So, with features like allow listing and ring fencing, companies can proactively prevent threats and minimize the risk and impact of breaches. So, before we dive deep into the results, here's a preview of them. The study rendered a 184% ROI with benefits of 6.4 million and a net present value of zero point 0.1 million. You'll see a quote from an IT manager in finance about the ease of mind experienced after ThreatLocker was in place. This was a common story to go to sleep at night without needing to worry about being woken up in the middle of the night. These are the results of our aggregated data, but we'll now meet the interviewees who contributed to this study. On the next slide. So you can see that in addition to our IT manager and finance, we have roles across a variety of industry. We have a CEO in IT and cybersecurity managed services, a CISO, and a director of cybersecurity, both in the same organization in transportation, and a global information security manager in agribusiness. And you can see the size of each business and the number of deployed endpoints. And to begin, each interviewee described the challenges that they faced prior to implementing ThreatLocker. They described that before ThreatLocker, they had security incidents that consumed significant resources and posed a strain on their lean teams. They also experienced loss of user productivity because the user would not have access to their systems for a period of time after a prior solution failed to detect malware. Compliance requirements also drove the need for an application allow listing solution. Interviewees also struggled with managing and reducing cybersecurity risks due to a lack of visibility into applications running in their environments. That limited insight led to higher operational costs and additional staff to manage security incidents, which highlighted limitations with their existing security solutions and the need for a more proactive approach. So they looked into a solution with some requirements in mind. Compliance and regulatory requirements were top of mind for all interviewees. That drove the decision to implement ThreatLocker. So interviewees basically recognized the urgent necessity to adopt a cybersecurity strategy rooted in a zero trust default deny approach. They needed a solution that could effectively manage security across numerous endpoints without an undue increase in resource requirements. It was, moreover, critical that the solution be robust and user-friendly and offer seamless application control to ensure standardization across all affiliates for the organizations that had affiliates. By implementing ThreatLocker, interviewees were able to achieve these goals, significantly enhancing security posture while maintaining operational efficiency. So now that we've gotten to know the interviewees, let's look at our main character. This is the composite organization formed from the interviewee profiles and data. It's a US-based multi-billion-dollar B2B organization that operates globally. It has 10,000 employees who each have either a desktop or laptop computer. The organization has an existing security platform with an antivirus or an endpoint detection and response solution. The composite deploys ThreatLocker across its 10,000 endpoints after a 1-month proof of concept and a 3-month implementation period. A team of 10 security analysts supports the tool, and all end users are trained in the change management process. So on the next slide, we have a preview of our benefits before we dive in. These are the quantified benefits. I'll also show you some unquantified benefits. So the composite experiences a reduced risk of data breach worth about 4 million to the composite. Security operations efficiency is worth about 1 million, and licensing cost avoidance worth about 1 million. So leading us into our first benefit is this quote from the CISO in the transportation industry. We've not had any ransomware or even malware execution since deploying ThreatLocker. And you'll recall that the majority of the interviewees were catalyzed to deploy ThreatLocker after a notable security incident. So we'll move into that first benefit, which interviewees highlighted as the biggest benefit of ThreatLocker, its default deny policy. This policy ensures that only trusted applications can run, which significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized software execution. Most interviewees adopted ThreatLocker after experiencing costly security incidents with alternative security solutions. And all interviewees reported that there were no ransomware or malware incidents after deploying ThreatLocker. So there's 99% there. We could have said 100, but we don't do that at Forrester. So you get 99%. Again, this benefit is worth about 4 million to our composite organization. The way that it's calculated, and once you download the whole study, if you choose to look at that, which I highly encourage, you'll see the benefit tables. We start with the likelihood of an organization experiencing one or more data breaches per year, which according to Forrester research is 68%. 81% out of that 68 is from internal incidents or external attacks that target the organization or its employees' home remote network. And the remaining attacks would involve the company's external ecosystem. So the mean cumulative cost of breaches, according again to Forrester research, is around 3 million. With ThreatLocker, the composite experiences a 99% reduction in security breaches. So there's that data point that you see there. And then within this benefit, we also include the composite cyber insurance policy rate reductions due to the fact that they have a allow listing with ThreatLocker, which is 10% for the composite. But according to interviewees, they experienced anywhere from between 10 to 15% in rate reductions on their cybersecurity insurance, as you can see from the CEO in IT and cybersecurity managed services. There's that quote there. Our second benefit is security operations efficiencies, which is time and labor savings on the security team, as described by our global information security manager in agribusiness. This is even on routine maintenance, determining what applications are authorized.
So this is an interesting point actually, because this is one of the areas where we often see people think about allow listing and things like ring fencing as a increase in management costs. What you don't realize is it often reduces your management costs. And this is really in two areas. Quite often we'll start off, so ThreatLocker has a full EDR solution, but we'll start off selling an allow listing solution to a customer, selling a ring fencing solution to a customer. And then a year later, they'll come back to us and they'll say, I haven't had a legitimate incident in my stock all year, and the number of alerts has massively reduced in the stock. I don't know if you experienced similar experience with the people you interview. And then also the IT reduction. People think, well, users, I'm going to have to now approve software for users if they want something new. But the upside of that is you also don't have shadow IT going on, which reduces your IT support costs, because you can give somebody a laptop and 5 years later that laptop will come back. It might have a smashed screen, but the same software is running that you sent it out with all the updates installed. So your IT operation costs tend to go much, much lower because users aren't breaking their own stuff now either.
Yeah, definitely, Danny. I heard all of those points, not the smash screen, but all of the other points during the interviews. Interviews noted. ThreatLocker minimized the time spent on routine maintenance, on audits, on manual reviews, as well as reducing the need for the constant monitoring and intervention. The CISO in the transportation industry noted that their organization operates with lean teams. This was true regardless of who the interviewee was. They always mentioned their lean teams, and added that part of the idea in leveraging ThreatLocker was to use the services and the tool to have a default deny policy with an allow listing approach so that they wouldn't need as many resources. The interviewee estimated that the team would have needed 5 additional detection and response personnel without ThreatLocker. Similarly, the CEO in IT and cybersecurity managed services noted a long-term reduction in the time and resources spent on incident recovery. The proactive approach allowed their IT team to address issues quickly and efficiently and prevented larger issues. Some other examples included the IT manager in the finance industry noting that ThreatLocker allowed their IT team to spend less time on manual reviews and more time on other important tasks. Additionally, ease of auditing the access to files and applications with ThreatLocker made their compliance reporting more efficient, saving time and resources there again. They mentioned it used to take the team 2 days to audit files. It now takes 5 minutes. So that's a significant reduction. The global information security manager in agribusiness mentioned that ThreatLocker improved visibility and streamlined their organization's IT processes, freeing IT staff to focus on other tasks. So this benefit is worth, if you remember from the overview, a little over $1 million to the composite, which has 10 FTEs on its cybersecurity team who experience 50% labor efficiencies from reduced time on routine maintenance, auditing, access, cleanup, and detection and response, with the average fully burdened hourly rate for a security analyst at $65 an hour, which is Forrester's estimate. We can move on to our third benefit in the quantified section, which is licensing cost avoidance. We get a look at it from this quote from the director of cybersecurity and transportation about how their traditional EDR product doesn't have to do much because ThreatLocker is doing the heavy lifting there. So they kept it, but it's not doing much. All right, so interviewees used ThreatLocker for proactive threat prevention combined with other reactive tools, some of which they were able to decommission after deploying ThreatLocker. The CEO in IT and cybersecurity managed services described that their organization was able to decommission some of its reactive tools after deploying ThreatLocker. The IT manager in the finance industry also decommissioned a preventative security tool after deploying ThreatLocker. In the Forrester case studies, we don't mention the names of other vendors, but they're there. And they eliminated costs, the associated costs of, and benefited from a more efficient and user-friendly solution.
We're seeing that quite a lot now with customers who implemented allow listing, were heavily reliant on EDR and MDRs or their in-house SOC before. They realize that the amount of work that the SOC and the EDR is doing now is massively reduced. Therefore, they're adding, maybe replacing their EDR with ThreatLocker's EDR because it's obviously a much lower licensing cost on the basis that it's already got ThreatLocker. It's already built into the agent, so it's just an extra module, which is substantially cheaper, and that reduces their overall operation costs quite significantly.
Yeah, and for the composite, this benefit is worth a little over $1 million. So if you remember, the composite has 10,000 third-party licenses, and we've estimated that at $70 per license for a security tool that they replaced with ThreatLocker. Again, you can, when you download the study, you can look at how we did the calculations, and if you have a security tool in mind that you think this one might be decommissioned, you can take a look at that and see how that's calculated to render your own ROI.
Yeah, and I've even seen people reduce money on, hey, I have this file auditing tool, and now this is just built into the platform. I don't have to pay all this extra money for my file auditing tool because that's in there, or my storage controls tool. And if we can go back to the slides.
Yeah. Okay. We're moving on to unquantified benefits. So we have a section in the full study in which interviewees mention the following additional benefits that their organization experienced but were not able to quantify. While interviewees had not experienced a security incident after investing in ThreatLocker, they noted that the ring fencing feature would have helped to contain potential threats and prevent their spread by controlling what applications can do and how they interact. ThreatLocker also significantly improved visibility into end user and application activity and helped reduce shadow IT, as Danny mentioned earlier. Several interviewees mentioned that ThreatLocker made auditing easier and more efficient by providing detailed visibility into the applications being used and the users. These insights ensured that only approved applications were running, reducing the risk of unauthorized software. The software interface was easy to use, and the ease of policy creation was a significant benefit compared to other allow listing solutions. I was actually personally surprised by how complicated some of the other interviews described alternative solutions for policy creation as complicated. Because the ThreatLocker interface is intuitive and easy to navigate, IT staff could easily create, manage, and maintain security policies, ultimately improving the security posture and compliance readiness of their organizations. For training, interviewees highly valued their ThreatLocker partnership and made use of the provided resources The IT manager in the finance industry described the cyber hero support team as very responsive and quick to resolve issues. Additionally, ThreatLocker University offered comprehensive training that helped IT staff become proficient in the platform. There was also minimized disruptions to revenue streams compared to the before state where they were experiencing some ransomware incidents. Several interviews described that the ability of ThreatLocker to maintain system availability was critical to their operations, noting that any downtime resulted in lost revenue. And in a similar vein, interviews described increased sales as ThreatLocker had a positive impact, particularly to those in managed services. The CEO in the IT and cybersecurity managed services industry shared that they won new clients, including a large healthcare client, by demonstrating the robust security measures and ransomware attack prevention that ThreatLocker enabled. So moving on to costs, the other key component of ROI, you'll see we have three: licensing, implementation, and ongoing management and training. So again, these are specifically for the composite organization. You can reach out to ThreatLocker for your own quotes. Um, but for the composite, based on the interviewees licensing costs for ThreatLocker vary depending on organization size and endpoints deployed. The composite pays an annual enterprise licensing fee of $40.40 per endpoint for the ThreatLocker suite of products, and a reminder, it has 10,000 endpoints. Overall, interviewees describe the implementation process with ThreatLocker as quick and easy due to automation, ease of integration, and effective support from the ThreatLocker team. For most interviewees, the initial proof of concept phase took roughly 4 weeks, with full deployment finalized in 3 to 4 months. For the composite, when we calculated the cost section for implementation and ongoing management specifically, we have 4 FTEs, including 1 business leader, 1 IT analyst, and 2 security analysts, with an average fully burdened hourly rate of 200. Dedicate 70% of their times to an initial 16-week implementation, which included proof of concept, policy creation, baselining, and rollout. And then from there, we have 1 FTE with a fully burdened hourly rate of $65 an hour. Dedicate a fraction of their time to ongoing management.
So that you said 1 FTE was a fraction of their time for full-time management going forward after the implementation.
Yes.
And that's one of the big things that people often are scared of. Is this going to become multiple people managing this? And the answer is no. Even in complex, large enterprise environments, this is a fraction of somebody's time. The biggest challenge is when you run a 24-hour operation, making sure that everyone in the company knows how to do that approval if you need it. But that's one of the cool things about the Cyber Hero approval team, is they're able to do the approvals on your behalf.
Yeah. And then as we touched on, quantified benefits training was part of it. Interviewees described making additional resources available for education and internal development. They allocated time for their security operations teams to participate in online training through ThreatLocker University to stay current on features, functionalities, and security trends. The CEO actually, and some of the interviewees incentivized their own employees to take those classes. And the CEO in the IT and cyber security managed services said, I think most people take 4 to 5 months to complete cyber hero training. We allot them time in their daily schedule to do the studying. It's about a 4 to 5 month process for 1 hour, 3 times a week. He mentioned we don't pay extra for the training, and every employee is allowed to take the test twice before we incur costs of around 100 to 200 to retake the exam. And so that incentivizes employees to pass within the first 2 times. So for the composite, for the 10,000 end users, we have an average fully hourly burden rate of $55 to complete a 1 hour webinar. And then for the 10 security analysts, we have their average hourly burdened rate at $65 to complete an initial 130-hour training, and then followed up by monthly 1 hour trainings to stay current. So if we move on to our financial summary, we have our 184% ROI, And you can definitely see more detail in the full case study that's available for you to download.
Okay. Well, I think this is really useful. I think hopefully a lot of people who are considering ThreatLocker and thinking about how they can roll it out in their organization, this becomes a very useful report. And I appreciate you guys putting the time in for this report. Is there anything else you wanted to add from your experience talking to ThreatLocker customers?
Yeah, I mean, all around, they said that this was sort of a dream come true. We like to ask a question in the interviews. How would you justify the investment to a CEO or CFO if they walked up to you and said, Danny, I don't know why we're spending so much money on ThreatLocker, which the cost, from what the interviews described, wasn't as much. Um, all of them said so I could sleep at night. Um, and in order to minimize the disruptions of our business, they said it would be really easy to justify because um, all they had to do was draw up all of the threats that could have been avoided if they had ThreatLocker.
Okay.
So, are great things all around. Yeah.
Cool. Do we have any questions from the audience we want to?
There are some questions about ThreatLocker products. Danny, if you'd like to answer a few.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so we have, I'll start from the top. How many third-party apps are patched? Is it using scripts or another method?
So I think to the question, so I think there's two parts to that. One is when we're thinking about whitelisting is how many apps do we keep track of? So in the event of an application being updated, how many apps do our team monitor every day to ensure that if there's an update, the update won't be blocked? And I think that's coming up on 8,000, if not more than 8,000 now. How many apps are in the patching store? I'm not entirely sure of the exact answer because it's currently still in beta, but I think we're adding about 10 a week. So the answer should be hundreds or thousands within 6 months, because our intention is everything that's in our built-in will eventually be patchable through ThreatLocker, and we're adding about 10 a week, and we're adding that based on demand order. The first thing we started doing there was adding all the deprecated hashes for all of the apps we patch. So you'll get a report immediately, and as we see more apps out of date, we'll release the patches for them. What's cool about our patching is we actually test the patching on our systems before. We don't just give you a patch and say, here's Google's patch to update Google Chrome, but we actually test it with the deployment inside the ThreatLocker environment before it actually goes out to you as well.
All right. Will Cloud Control work on all M365 subscriptions from Basic to E5?
Cloud Control will work on all 365 subscriptions. There is one consideration which we're still working on, hopefully better solutions for. Sometimes Microsoft delays the update of those IP addresses by up to 15 minutes. We've experienced it if there's a lot of changes where Microsoft said, hey, you've told us about this new IP address, but we're going to wait 15 minutes. That's the only consideration we have. We are working to find solutions with Microsoft on that as to why there's a delay. But we're also working on the alternative where we can allow them to connect in Cloud Detect, but then automatically block them if they are not on one of your trusted devices, and it will work on all subscriptions.
Does the web control feature include SSL inspection?
The web control feature is essentially it's not working on DNS on the endpoint. It does work on DNS, so it doesn't do SSL inspection, but it does do it's site categorization and of the sites. So we'll look at the sites, we'll automatically categorize them. We're actually going out and probing sites. We're cross-referencing them with insights, and we're saying this is a malicious site or this is not a malicious site, and we'll tell you the category of the site as well. So if you want to block gambling or adult content, those policies are all available for you to just turn on in the portal there, and that is available now on version 10.
Do you intend to extend services to mobile devices or tablets?
So where we've focused on mobile devices right now is we have the Access app for tracking of the IP address. I think at some point, ThreatLocker our goal as a company is to expand across as many platforms as possible. Obviously, in the last year, we've added all the Linux builds, and the more Linux builds are coming out, we've expanded the Mac build, so Detect is now being released on the Mac. We actually even re-added Windows XP last year, so mobile devices is definitely something we're looking at. We haven't made any decision as to whether it's difficult. We want to be mobile device security, not mobile device management, because we're a security platform.
Right. Can you configure ThreatLocker to use all modules exclusively for servers while limiting workstations to only application control or a selected subset of modules?
Yes, you can. The products are purchased on an organization basis, but they can have sub-organizations, and you can configure all modules on servers, but a subset on the endpoints. However, it's not the best idea. The amount of times we're able to identify a bigger breach by seeing everything on the entire environment. The more of the environment you see, the more likely we are to respond and be faster. Allow listing is the most important module to have on everything in my mind, and ring fencing the second. But our detect module works better when we can see what's happening on the endpoints, because if we just see somebody logged into a server from a local IP address, we don't know anything about that machine. But if we now have detect and alerts on that machine, we can say, how did they get onto that machine? What software ran there? Are they using other tools? Are there remote encryption tools? So with network control, you can set dynamic ACLs to shut them off. So you can, but we generally recommend that you put it on all devices so we get as much visibility as possible.
Awesome. And we do have a shout out from Daniel Velez. He says, almost 4 years as a partner, and ThreatLocker is the real deal. Stop threats today by having the solution in cyber heroes on your team. Exclamation point.
Well,
so thank you, Daniel.
So Nahida, I appreciate you joining us today, and I appreciate you guys doing the report. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. So hopefully we'll be doing some product launch demos soon of the new products, so full demos over the next few weeks. But again, thank you. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week.